I started my first job when I was 16, and a part of me felt like I've hustled all my way to where I am right now. So in this video, I wanted to make a tier list, a love letter rather, for all the jobs I've had in the past, what I've gained from it, as well as what it took from me. As for definition of a job, in this video, I'm going to include every single W-2 jobs I've had in the past. So some of the side gigs or independent contractor roles that I've done in the past does not belong to this video. And I could make a separate videos on all of my side hustles in the future, but let's get started right now. As you can see over here, this is a tier list that I made for all of the jobs that I had in the past. Let's start from the blue ones, which are the jobs that I've held when I was in high school. Ever since I was young, I've dreamt of making money, so the second I turned 16, I really couldn't wait anymore. And knowing that a lot of the people my age works at Kumon, I found the nearest location and sent a cold email to them asking if they're looking to hire anyone and I'd be willing to do that. They told me that they were full at the moment, but they will let me know once they have a position, and I assumed that was a no. However, half a year later, they told me that a position has freed up, so that became my first job ever. I started out at the grading desk, which is just constantly grading people's homework for 4 to 5 hours at a time. But eventually, I also started substituting for teaching preschool kids, so I started working with some 3 to 5-year-olds. When I first joined, it felt a little bit suffocating because I didn't really know anyone at the place, but later on, I recommended this to my friend group, and a lot of my friends from my friend group started applying and eventually became graders. So at one point, on the grading desk, all of us are in the same friend group, and we were just having the greatest time sitting there while making money, and it was such a core memory. At the same time, working with little kids was extremely rewarding or very stressful depending on the specific kid. I was getting paid $10 an hour, which was not much, but I was really happy about it because it was my first job ever. So I was definitely making enough money for anything I really wanted to do with my friends. However, I really don't enjoy how there's no break time baked in at all, so because of that, I had to work 4 hours straight on a desk that is really uncomfortable, and that was my first time experiencing what back pain felt like. So I definitely don't like that part. Overall, I would give it maybe a B for now. One of our mutuals in the friend group worked at a poke restaurant, so 3 of us working at Kumon all applied to that poke restaurant, and eventually 2 of us got it. So that became my second job ever, and it was the first time that I was actually working with adults and customers in real life. What I did was pretty typical of a restaurant job, making the poke bowls, doing cashier work, as well as cleaning the restaurant. I would say that I learned a shit ton because this is the first job that socialized me as a person. Before that, I was very much shielded from the outside world because everyone treated me as a minor, but this was the first job where people had adult expectations on me. A lot of the people at the poke restaurant tend to be college students already, so as a high schooler, I was just able to learn a lot from them. When I first joined, I felt like people were a little bit surprised by how little experience I had actually socializing with adults. I was so timid that I didn't really know how to get a customer to pull out their credit cards to check out. Yeah, I was pretty much like a kid when I started the job. So in the beginning, it was definitely a little bit of a learning curve, but after going through the process, I eventually got to know everyone really well, and we had very frequent gatherings outside of the work hours, so that was really fun. So thinking about it, I actually really enjoyed this job, and eventually I quit my Kumon job to focus more on this. So I would definitely put it at an A, a tier above Kumon. If you watch all the way until here, my name is April, and I'm a 25-year-old software engineer living in Seattle, and in my channel, I talk about life in your 20s, personal finance, as well as how I balance tech and creativity to build my dream life one step at a time. So if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe, and let's move on to the next batch of all of my college jobs. The first job that I did after going to college was to help out at a preschool that is affiliated with one of the sister colleges. So I pretty much just go in every week and play with the kids however they want me to play with them, and it was actually a really easy job. At the preschool, there were 3 Chinese kids, so they don't really hang out with everyone else, and they formed their little alliance and they spoke Chinese to each other pretty much all the time. Honestly, looking at that reminded me of my first time coming to the States when I was in 2nd grade, because I was brought up in China and I spent a year in Arizona during my elementary school where I also went through that problem. I had a lot of trouble making friends because of the language barrier, but it was Arizona, so it was just me, and I wished I I had a friend that I could talk to, like the way all three of them were able to do. So I spent most of my time just hanging out with those girls, trying to understand what they like to do. And I was pretty surprised when the teachers told me that they were actually really glad that I was able to go in and help them with it, because they have no idea what the girls want sometimes. So that part of the job was extremely meaningful to me. After a semester at the job, COVID happened. I think eventually the preschool was shut down, so it definitely didn't last for long. It was also a little bit far away from my main campus, so I would just put it as a B for now. After starting sophomore year, I did what everyone else on campus does, becoming a grutor. I went to a liberal arts college that is mainly focused on STEM. Because we're in liberal arts college, there are no graduate TAs, so everyone on campus was super excited to become grutors, which is grader plus tutor for a lot of the on-campus classes. I followed suit, but right after I started college, I already knew that I'm not the strongest STEM kid in class. So most of the time when I work on positions like this, instead of feeling fulfilled, I actually feel so much imposter syndrome because I feel stupid a lot of the times. I really didn't enjoy it, and after a semester of doing it, I never went back to it again. This is the job that I single-handedly hate the most, and I'm gonna give it an F. We can rapid fire the next two because they're pretty low time commitment. The first one is a tennis match scorer. We're a Division 3 school for all of our sports, so in turn, I was able to just get a campus job scoring tennis games for our school. I played tennis for a little bit in a couple summer camps here and there. I know how a game works, but I had a lot of trouble in the beginning following along and getting the scores accurate. At the same time, it's not stressful at all because we are a D3 school, so not a lot of people watches the games. I really enjoyed this job because I wanted to get more into watching tennis, and I feel like by working on this job, I was actually able to do that. And then the one after that is a campus tour guide. The reason that I chose the college that I went to was because of the campus tour that I visited. I feel like it was very different from all of the other campus tours that I've been to. So after starting college, that is the one job that I really wanted to do, to become a tour guide. Of course, I did not make it the first time around. I think I had to apply 2 or 3 times to eventually get a job as a campus tour guide. Initially, I was a little bit nervous because an entire tour is 60 minutes. So I had to write a whole speech that is 60 minutes. But after a couple runs, I started to really like it because I really enjoy talking to high schoolers and their parents to provide them as much information as possible and help them choose a college that is the right fit. However, both of these jobs don't really have that much hours, so I could probably only make $30 or $40 from each job in a month, and because of that factor alone, I'm putting them as a C. Okay, now we're moving into the final batch of jobs where things get a little bit more intellectual. The first one is physics research. I wasn't able to land any research or any internship after my freshman year, so during my sophomore year, I was grinding really hard to make sure that I was able to get a research position. Even though I'm a CS student, I wasn't able to land any CS research on campus, and instead, I spent the summers studying with a physics professor. The lab itself was really chill, but at the same time, I still feel the sense of imposter syndrome that I felt because I am the only CS major out of everyone there at the lab. However, I really appreciate this experience because I feel like this was where my adulthood officially started. Even though I was also living on campus my first year, I didn't really have a car and it felt more like playing house, whereas this time when I started my summer research, I started living in an apartment building. I got a stipend for the entire summer, which turns out to be lower than minimum wage, and I started grocery shopping, cooking my own meals, and everything felt really nice. It felt like I finally grew up and experienced adulthood for the first time. But going back to the work itself, I still didn't really enjoy the work because all of the skills that I learned from this experience wasn't really transferable as a software engineer, so I would give it a C. The next one on the list is a Chinese research opportunity. This opportunity was really weird because one of the Chinese professors on campus was looking for students with machine learning skills to help them do some data processing on their research topic of assessing Chinese education. So I interviewed and showed them my machine learning skills, and I didn't use any of that at the job. Instead, I got assigned a project where I was reading over 100 research papers about the best way to learn Chinese. That has nothing to do with any of the things that I was studying at the time. And after that project, we started building a WordPress website as reading material for the Chinese classes on campus. It was really absurd and has nothing to do with anything else that I do, but I really enjoy how this job is fully remote. Everything was done online, and in addition to that, an added perk was that I actually had a paper published from this project. I didn't get that for my physics research, but apparently one of the tasks when I was doing this research project was to explore a Chinese learning website and write up a product report, and that review article that I spent about 2 hours writing ended up getting published by the professor, so that was pretty cool. Eventually, the research ran out of funding, and that's how we got laid off. Even though none of the things that I learned here is transferable, it was pretty cool that I was able to publish a paper, so I would give it a B. Alright, the next one is where I started actually making real money. I was an intern at Amazon in the summer of 2022, so that was my junior summer. During my junior year, I was applying like crazy because part of me feel like if I couldn't find an internship for junior summer, I wouldn't be able to find a full-time job because I wouldn't have anything on my resume. So by the end of the junior summer, I applied to 123 jobs and finally landed one offer, which I kind of attribute to luck. I could make a whole video all about applying to internships, but I digress. For the internship, I ended up working on some DevOps project for the team that I was in. It is actually pretty simple, but at the time, I had zero experience and I knew nothing about what I was doing. I'm pretty glad that through this experience, I was able to learn a lot about the software development process as well as AWS services, which are both transferable skills. However, like most software jobs, there's almost no diversity. I was the only woman in the entire team, and I was also the only entry level. And I feel really dumb, especially because everyone else on the team was mid-level or above, so there was no one who can really help me understand basic concepts, and I was questioning myself almost every day. Overall though, I would still place this as an S because the money is real, and in addition to that, I also got my entire summer housing comped, and because I was driving from LA to Seattle, I essentially got 2 sponsored road trips for driving from LA to Seattle and back to LA, which turned out to be some of my favorite road trip memories. The next job on the list is admissions interviewer. I actually worked on this job for a pretty long time throughout my senior year as well as during my senior summer before I started full-time at Amazon. My main responsibility in this job was to interview prospective students interested in applying to my college, and I really enjoyed this job because one of my favorite things to do was to talk to people from different backgrounds and understanding so many different cultures. And I was able to do that at this job. I got an opportunity to talk to people from Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Bangladesh, Peru, Saudi Arabia, all kinds of students that I would not be able to meet otherwise. Moreover, I also got inspired from so many different students' personal stories, which obviously I'm not gonna disclose here. But just the whole idea of talking to college students makes me feel so happy because I feel like there's an infinite amount of future for them to explore, and it's just something that feels really bright, really hopeful. This job was also fully remote, so while doing this job in the summer, I was able to interview students when I was in New York, in DC, at Starbucks, at the airport, just in so many different places, and I just had so much flexibility from the job, and I really enjoy it. Even though the job virtually pays minimum wage, I would put it as an S tier because the memories that I was able to gain from it is so irreplaceable. And we finally got to my current job, which is my full-time software engineering job at Amazon. I got a return offer from my internship, but I got moved to this current team, and I actually like it better because there's better diversity in gender and background and experience level. It makes me feel less alone than the internship experience. I would definitely say it's more stressful than when I was an intern, but that just goes with any other jobs out there. At the same time, there's also this hideous thing called on-call, which I made a lot of vlogs about in the past. So that is also something that is a little bit tough that I didn't have to deal with when I was an intern. I have to say that the pay here is really good, especially if you get lucky with the stocks, then I would say it beats the internship salary by a lot. So given all of that, I would still put it as an A because I do think the product that I work on is pretty cool and the stress is actually not that bad, only in certain weeks. So voila! This is my final tier list for all of the jobs that I've done in the past. I do want to end this video by emphasizing that the tier list is just a container, but what I really wanted to share with you guys, as you can probably already tell by now, is what I was able to learn from each of my experiences leading up to now. With some exception, I would say that every job that I did lead me to where I am now. So what was your first job and did you like it? Let me know in the comment section below. If you watch all the way until here, make sure to give this video a like and make sure to check out my latest on-call vlog over here. I'll see you next week. Bye!